Just for a start, could you just give us a brief history about Pollman's tours and safaris?
Okay, the role that I've taken
Yes.
is two roles, which includes both tours
Yes.
and hotels. And when it comes to tours, Pollman Tours and Safaris is one of the leading tour operators
Yes.
for over 50 years, both in Kenya, but we cut across the entire East African region, which is Uganda, Tanzania, even Rwanda. So it's a company that's been there for a long time.
Yes.
And if you're to write the history of Kenya's tourism, especially at the coast, then you will not fail to feature Pollman's.
Yes.
Then the other bit is that we also have some interest in the hotel industry through the Baobab Kole Kole beach resort, which is in the south coast.
Yes.
This is one of the largest resorts in Kenya with over 320 rooms.
Yes.
And this is a very unique resort in the sense that you are buying one resort, you're paying for one resort, but you get a chance to sample three resorts. So we call it 3-in-1, which is Maridadi wing, then there's a Kole Kole wing, and then there's the main hotel, which is the Baobab.
Yes.
And we also boast of 1,000 meters of beach frontage. That's a whole kilometer, which again has got the unique feature of having a cliff, which gives you a fantastic view on both southwards and also northwards, and on each side not less than 6 kilometers.
Okay.
So we believe that we are one of the best spots in Diani, which in itself is already an award, winning destination. So my role for the last, hardly 2 months is purely to drive excellence and to try as much as possible to improve the level of service delivery, and more importantly also to create new products and to refresh what we're already currently doing. The company is already very successful, but being successful is one thing, but to maintain it is another thing altogether. And remember, competition is coming in, and is coming in quite strong these days, and more so when it comes to online competition. People shop online, they book online. So if you're going to be fixated with a physical presence only, then you may find yourself being empty. So those are some of the things that we are looking at. And obviously we also have an interest in Savo, where we have the Sarova Soul Lake and Taita Hills. And we take a lot of keen interest on the sanctuary side. So these are some of the portfolios. These are some of the things that I am currently doing, and it's very exciting so far. Then the other hats that I wear, that is association side, which is a not paid position. It is a pro bono, and it's very important that industry players in any field, you must take we must take a role in society. You don't necessarily have to be paid. So the Kenya Tourism Federation, which is a purely private organization, a lot of people confuse Kenya Tourism Federation with Kenya Tourism Board. Kenya Tourism Board is a government body which is to market the destination. They have a board which is sustained by the government. In our case, we are a private organization. We are the umbrella body for all the tourism organizations, that is from the hotel keepers, KHC, then we have two operators, Kato, then we have the travel agencies, Kata, including Ecotourism Kenya, plus the aviation owners who fly out of Wilson and many other places. So all these guys come under the umbrella of Kenya Tourism Federation, and it's purely driven by the private sector, funded by private sector, and that's what we do.
Okay. Allow me just to ask a little bit about the federation.
About
the federation, the Kenya Tourism Federation.
Yes.
How many years has it been in existence?
Kenya Tourism Federation was formed by default. What I mean by that is that in '97 is when we had the first serious political violence out of an election in Kenya. And you recall the sad incidents of Likoni attacks where policemen were killed one evening. And what we realized was a gap where government is busy firefighting on many other things, but the tourists who are in the country and those who want to visit the country were not able to get the information and the status of security within the country. So, and remember that was before the internet came in and there was no social media. So they all depended on their tour operators away in Europe, and the local DMC is the one to advise them what has transpired. So based on that, owners came together. Kenya Tourism Federation now was scaled up to take up that role, and we also have a seat on KEPSA because anything to do with tourism on the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, KEPSA, or rather KTF, will guide KEPSA, and in the process, in return also they guide the government. So that's the whole next is about Kenya Tourism Federation.
Okay, you mentioned a lot to do with the central government. What about the devolved units? Is there something in place that you're doing with that as a federation?
Yes, for sure.
Yes.
Again, Kenya Tourism Federation, well, we may be headquartered in Nairobi,
Yes.
but we may not have branches across the country. But we work very closely with other organizations because at the end of the day, we are not cannibalizing each other, we are not competing with each other. For instance, we have the KCTA, which is formerly MCTA, which is based in Mombasa. So we work with them when it comes to any issue touching on the entire coastline. So when you go to the western part of the country, we also have different associations that will take care of the western part of the country, including Nyanza. Then we have North Rift that will take care of Eldoret and all those places. Then we have the Mount Kenya hoteliers. So we work with all these organizations, and rather than try to replicate, remember we are a private organization.
To what extent do you feel you're involved with the policy making by the government?
Government has been very supportive, and they listen to us.
Yes.
They've really been listening to us, and many requests that we've made have been given. For instance, at one point we had asked that to revive tourism, please let us give visa free to children under the age of 16, and that was granted. Waive or reduce the landing fees in Mombasa so that we can kickstart the charter aircraft landing in Mombasa. That was given. We also told them that look here, that was just when Kibaki came into power. We again requested, can we be allowed to bring in hardware and things that we are going to use to renovate our hotels, and then exempt us from paying the import duty. That again was granted. Recently we pushed through the Kenya Association of Tour Operators. We requested again, can you please take us out of the classification when it comes to public service vehicles, PSV, because policemen were harassing our tour drivers left, right, because they consider you just like any other matatu, which is wrong. When it comes to how we operate, we have had cases, where a whole van with tourists, a policeman would like to arrest them and lock them up at a police station, not knowing that these people are on a very tight itinerary, and yet they haven't broken any law. The only law probably is a very minor traffic offense, and more importantly is because we have the bull bars in front of our vehicles, because all these vehicles are manual, and they help each other when they are stuck. Without coming out of the car, you can push your colleague. Now the traffic policemen don't understand that. They think because it's become a law that get out the bull bars. Bull bars are removed from matatus because they were bullying other road users. There's no tour vehicle that bullies anyone, and you can't even recall, touch wood, the last time a tour van caused an accident. We don't. So the problem with government is, especially the what can I say, the people who are supposed to effect law on the ground, like the traffic policemen, don't want to reason with you, and so we decided to lobby. So we've been taken out of public service vehicles. We now have tourist service vehicle, TSV. So we have some peace now, and there's a lot of self regulation among ourselves so that we abide by the law, we make sure that we don't break any law. And at the end of the day, we also don't want to be put in the same basket with the matatus. I don't think that is right, and it is totally wrong.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just discussing a little bit with you. You've been in this sector for quite some time now.
Yes.
If I just ask a question, just as a sidebar, the trend that we've seen in the tourism sector, what did you say we're coming from, we are currently, and we're moving to?
The Kenya's tourism industry, in the past, the core and the foundation was mainly at the Kenya coast. 70% of Kenya's tourism was based at the coast. Those were the days when we will get over 42 charters a week, aircraft landing in Mombasa. On a single day, maybe on a Wednesday, you may end up getting 3,000 passengers landing. Those were the heydays. And those were the days before the internet, where people will just go to the high street and book a holiday. Fast track, everything changed. Of course, terrorism came in, people got scared, travel advisories came up, so numbers went down. And internet exploded, and all of a sudden you can shop online, book online, discuss on a forum with people who have been to that destination, and they convince you where to go. And the modern traveler, especially the young travelers, don't want to be dictated in a program, that will pick you this time, you'll be so many of you, will take you to this point. They don't want that. They want to decide when to travel. They want to decide how long they want to stay. They will decide they can cut short their stay with no penalties. They will decide, I've loved the place, I want to extend my stay. So they don't want this issue of, look here, you've bought a 10-day holiday and you all line up, 150 of you into an aircraft, and you must fly back. So a lot has changed. And then of course, then obviously Nairobi had also not developed then, but now we have a lot of city hotels that are coming in Nairobi with a lot of, with very many international chains opening up shop. If you notice, just in less than 10 years, we've had over 10 international brands opening, from the Radissons to now we're getting also Marriott, the Movenpicks, to Sheratons, the Crown Plazas. So there are very many of them. We did not have all this before, which means that there's a lot of development in Nairobi, and Nairobi is now coming up as a true city. I was speaking to a tour operator the other day, and he said, well, 20 years ago, Nairobi was just a small town, and but now you can qualify yourself as a modern city, because you're looking at Nairobi. Nairobi is big, and Nairobi is quite modern. You've got over 500, restaurants alone in Nairobi. So when you're to look at the tourism numbers, there's one particular trend that people don't know, and this is we call it the election jinx. So what happens is that we build our numbers, then as you get to an election, people start getting worried, people start slowing down traveling, and unfortunately and regrettably, we proved to the world in 2007 that we still have a long way to get into civilization, when all hell broke loose and we really misbehaved, and we misbehaved ourselves to serious trouble, in the sense that nobody wanted to come to Kenya, and it took us another 2-3 years to build back again. Then again, you recall 2013, there were a lot of worries. People were saying, hey, will another 2007 happen? Including 2017 the other day. Now we are again worried about 2022. We are actually 3-4 years, away from us. So those are some of the realities, which is regrettable, which is unfortunate. So other countries have built on their numbers. You get a million number, you go to second 2 million, you go to 3 million. Ours, when you just pass the 1 million, you go to 1.5, you start going to 2 million, numbers start dropping again because of election. So it's very unfortunate that election actually completely disrupts what we do. And that's one of the reasons that even investors are very cagey and very, very careful whether to invest in Kenya's tourism. While next door, Zanzibar have really developed, and a lot of international chains are opening up just the way they're opening up in Nairobi, they're opening up in Mombasa, in Zanzibar. Unfortunately, not a single international chain has come to Mombasa, apart from our franchise the other day which closed, which was the Best Western. But by and large, as local players, we are hanging in there because we have a business to run. We can't complain. I think 2017, despite being an election year, has been a fantastic year for us. We're looking at building on the numbers in this year, 2018. More so now that the opposition and the government of the day, they can now talk to each other and sit around the table and address some of the issues without resorting to physical demonstrations on the street. That makes a big difference, because the moment you start doing that and tear gas goes here and there's bonfires here and there, then that really is reflected back in the source market. And these days news travels very fast, and before you realize, cancellations start coming in. So we have the 5-year, I call it 4-5-year jinx, and we need to get out of that, so that election does not really affect how we do our tourism. All these conferences you see in hotels at the coast is all part of MICE at the end of the day. It may be small because we don't have a big convention that can attract 10,000 people or 5,000 people. But nevertheless, when you attract even 1,000 people, that is still qualifies as part of the meetings and incentives segment. We have a big role to play, because remember, we're the umbrella body that brings hoteliers, tour operators and travel agents all together. And in the rest of the world have actually exploited MICE properly to the point that they've benefited from it, because the MICE traveler more often than not is traveling on company account. So the conference has been paid for, accommodation has been paid for, so they actually end up having extra surplus, money that they're able to spend. And then the good thing with MICE is that if you go to a destination and you like it, you like to go back. And when you go back with your family. Nairobi, until probably 5 years ago, did that quite well. But we seem to have lost our footing somewhere. And one of the reasons is because next door, Rwanda, which has got fewer tourist attractions, opted to focus in an aggressive manner in the MICE industry. Kigali, Rwanda, is now actually picking a lot of business that used to come to Mombasa, simply because they've built this state-of-the-art convention center, which took them a long time to build. And of course, they have the Radisson Blu, anchored there. And they've also gone out to pitch for business in a very aggressive way. One thing that is missing in Nairobi, and we've also been discussing with the CEO there, which it's not her fault, it's the government that is not moving fast, is the formation of a convention bureau. A convention bureau the main mandate is to go out and pitch for conventions around the world to come to Nairobi. And some of these conventions, people make a decision 5 years ahead of time. So if you go into the market today, you're trying to chase a convention for next year, you're mistaken, you won't get any, because they've all been, done, dusted. Maybe you may get 3 years. And that's what a serious convention, they do nothing else but to nose around, to find out, and it's very easy. There is the, global, where all the conferences are booked, and you're able to tell whether these people have ever been to Africa. And people have been to South Africa so many times, they're actually tired, because they also don't feel that South Africa is the Africa they would like to see. So based on that, that's how we now ended up hosting. We'll be hosting in October this year the SCAL World Congress, which brings together top tourism executives in the world to come to Mombasa, and we're hosting them at the Pride Inn Convention Center. Almost 1,000 people, 1,000 plus. So it's very, very crucial. If KCC is to succeed, then I don't think it can just be left to KCC on its own. We need to get the Convention Bureau done, funded, like yesterday, and they go out there and push very hard for this convention. And then obviously KICC also needs to be renovated. It's a very old facility that is quite outdated. So if we are to compete with Kigali, if we are going to compete with even Addis Ababa next door, then we also must refresh the product that we have. But the other opportunity is in the counties. We don't necessarily have to have that major MICE headquartered in Nairobi. We can comfortably have a good convention center in Mombasa, and we have just discussed that in the past. We've even managed to secure land at Hala Park, which is part of the Lafarge group, which is the formerly Bamburi Cement, and they're willing, to partner with hotels because we are right here on the north coast. Then the other one also is Kisumu. It's another upcoming destination that can do wonders for us. And then of course Eldoret, maybe a smaller version, but we can spread the impact of, or rather the location of MICE venues across the country. And I think we have enough to do that because South Africa has done that with Joburg, Durban, Cape Town. We equally can do that.
You've given us very strong examples and case studies for other countries. Do you have another example that you can give us, especially for a developed country, what they've done in the MICE industry that we can borrow from as a country?
I think one of the leading destinations in terms of MICE, and they're very far away, and people still go there, is the city of Sydney. They've invested heavily in the MICE industry. They go out there and they push hard, to get. That is one example. Another example that I love giving is the city of Bangkok in Thailand. Though the Thailand Tourism Authority have invested heavily, and the players, they have invested heavily in the MICE industry. And the sort of convention center that they have in a place like Bangkok is nothing that I've seen anywhere else, where you've got almost 8 domes that were formerly made out of they used to have an airport there, and they converted into a MICE. So all those hangars were converted into convention or with a proper infrastructure. So they have almost 8, and they can host 20,000 people at any one time. And they are going out there deliberately to look, for venue seekers. And they will host anything and anything under the sun, from the gemstone dealers to dog lovers. They will do exhibition for dogs. I was surprised. There's actually a world conference for dogs. It's amazing. You're not short of conferences, and people are looking for exotic, people are looking for good venues. And obviously Kenya, with our central location, because the location of Kenya is amazing. I'm sure if South Africa had our location, they'll be laughing all the way, because Kenya gives you the opportunity to go to West Africa within 4 hours, to go to South 4 hours, to go North is 4 hours. But again, location, we are not alone this time, because also Ethiopia, which has got a fantastic airline, virtually have similar location. And then Rwanda is developing their MICE segment very fast, because they've seen the opportunity there, because their location is equally the same as ours. That's why they're investing heavily in an international airport, and also they're growing their airline slowly but surely, because you cannot just have a convention center or a MICE industry hanging on its own. It can't hang, it has to be anchored on something. And one of the things is that if you make sure you've got a carrier that is going to be bringing all these delegates then it becomes easier for you, unlike if you're going to be going through another country.
Yes.
South Africa has developed because they have utilized Joburg and they've used the South African Airways. So so they can now then send people out to Cape Town and the rest of the places. However, in the recent past, South Africa has allowed many airlines to fly direct to Cape Town. They've also allowed them to fly to Durban, and that has just given them huge growth all of a sudden. And that's one of the things we're also seeking from our government, that they should allow us to get people to fly directly here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, wonderful. Just on the same, I wanted just to understand, if I was to ask you one challenge, in your own opinion, that is actually making us not grow the way Rwanda is growing, South Africa is growing. You gave an example of Ethiopia. What would you say would that challenge be?
One simple challenge, and I'll tell you, it's not rocket science, it is self-discipline and a sense of urgency, plus the lack of execution to follow through what we say we're going to do. That is the bottom line. We simply don't have sense of urgency. We think that we are the best, and we keep saying, hey, we are the best in the region. In the region, yes, maybe 20 years ago, and we used to compare ourselves with Ethiopia and we say, yeah, we are cool, I think we are fine.
Yes.
Just to give you an example, Ethiopia, the Addis Ababa airport, 10 years ago, handled less than 4 million tourists, or rather visitors, or travelers for that matter.
Yes.
At that particular time, Jomo Kenyatta Airport handled around 5 million. Today, that was last year, Ethiopia, which is Addis Ababa Airport, handled 13 million travelers. Kenya, we're still stuck at 6 million. That's the problem now. When you think you're the best and you sit comfortable, now that is Ethiopia. Rwanda is equally doing the same. So before we realize, they will also overtake us. And when I say when I talk about discipline and execution, look at our airport in Nairobi. We keep pointing out issues that must be addressed when it comes to vehicle control, how they move in, how they move out, and then some petty and annoying habits. For instance, bribery. Any Chinese-looking guest today is harassed. And some of them could be Japanese, some of them could be Koreans. I'm not suggesting Chinese should be harassed, but the amount of harassment that happens at the airport is unbelievable. And remember, that is the first impression, and it's also the last impression. So no matter what fantastic holiday we gave them, no matter how we went out of our way as hoteliers, the day they're leaving the country and they're at the airport and they're mishandled, that is what they will remember. If you lack simple manners, not to ask for bribe and not to harass visitors to this country, you have no business sitting at our hub. You should be sent somewhere very far away. Go to some, go and deal with cattle rustlers. That's where you belong. I don't think you belong to sit and to work at an international airport, because those are visitors, and these are not just tourists. We also have investors.
Yes.
You're coming in to put in billions of dollars in this country.
Yes.
And then you're mistreated, from immigration to, health officials. Somebody in the car park is asking for yellow fever certificate, for heaven's sake. A policeman asking for yellow fever certificate in the car park? Come on, man. Now, that is something you'll never see in Ethiopia, never. That is something you'll never, and I mean never, you'll never see it in Rwanda. And that is why they'll grow faster than us. Because that indiscipline will never be allowed. You'll be punished, and you'll be punished in a ruthless manner. It's good that His Excellency the President is fighting big corruption now, which is great. But what we are forgetting, these annoying habits of that officer there, who is using official uniform to misbehave and make the entire country look bad. And then we have a big problem. Mombasa is not any better. and that just sums up, the whole thing, why we progressing in this country becomes very, very difficult. Yeah.
Okay. I want to mention one stakeholder here in the industry, and that's the brand Kenya.
Yes.
I just wanted to understand the federation, the Kenya Tourism Federation.
Yes.
Your interface with brand Kenya. How do you go about doing business?
Well, I think we have too many bodies in this country.
Yes.
And I believe that is something that His Excellency the President mandated. There was a task force he created sometimes 3 years ago with a view of reducing these bodies. But there are too many bodies, all trying to do their own things.
Yes.
So we actually don't feel the impact of Brand Kenya.
Okay.
They're supposed to be bringing in investors. They're supposed to be trying to draw a positive picture about Kenya abroad there, and there are many things. But unfortunately, I don't think they're doing that. We work very closely with the Kenya Tourism Board, who have been very, very supportive to our industry. I think government has to decide how many bodies they want, especially that the people who are going to promote and they're going to sell the country.
Okay.
So on Brand Kenya, that's all I can say. Personally, we actually don't feel the impact. Yeah.
Okay. But what advice would you give them, being a professional in this industry?
Advice to
the brand Kenya.
Brand Kenya, I don't know what sort of budget they have, and I think the mandate has to be reviewed because it's a state organ. It's not in my position to tell them exactly what they need to do.
Yes.
But we have, Brand Kenya, then we have Ken Invest. We have so many organizations that there's a lot of duplicating. They duplicate the roles. And today, let's also face it, we just don't have enough, dollar, enough shilling to go around. Yeah. So if it is cutting down on expenses, there are many organizations. We are talking about 200, 300 parastatals in the country. Then you ask yourself, do you need all these? I mean, just looking next door again, Rwanda, they've scaled down everything to one body called Rwanda Development Board, RDB. RDB does everything. Yeah. They say they roll out the red carpet for you. They will handle, they'll do the promotion for tourists. They will also promote industries who want to come and set up shop there. So it's a one-stop shop. It's a tiny little building that is hardly 4 floors. Simplicity. Yeah, it's so simple. Simplicity is key.
Okay. Wonderful. Now, last question from this section is just about the new other players in the industry. And sometimes we tend to forget them in the transport sector.
Yes.
And here I'm focusing on new airlines. Yesterday we saw a launch of a new airline. It's not a new airline, but it's relatively new actually, so to speak, and that's Silverstone. There are other players, so to speak.
Yes.
The SGR, it's been called the new kid on the block. What impact do you think is making into the sector?
It's a huge impact. The thing is that for a destination to do well, people must get there.
Yes.
And if you make it very difficult for people to get there, then the destination will be empty.
Yes.
And that's what has happened in the last so many years, because we were not licensing new airlines. We were not allowing other airlines to come in. We refused to develop our trains, our railway, which has now happened.
Yes.
But again, the more the merrier. As long as safety is addressed, then we want as many airlines to come to Mombasa and also to connect us with other towns.
Okay.
It's very refreshing when we get the likes of Silverstone connecting Mombasa to Kisumu. And when we say Kisumu, it's more than just Kisumu as one county. You're looking at a dozen counties surrounding Kisumu.
Yes.
We also get the opportunity to connect us to Lodwar, which has got now oil exploration and oil production. And we've got a multinational like Talo Oil, which is based there. So we see a lot of opportunities for people to connect Mombasa and other cities together, which is very crucial.
Okay.
But when it comes to something like the SGR Madaraka Express, we go back again to the same thing about discipline. Yeah, it's very chaotic, I must say. And that has to be addressed. Building a railway line is one thing. It's beautiful, yes. The experience itself is nice, but booking your ticket is a nightmare. Getting to board the train, you will be kept waiting for a long time before they open the gates. Yet they want to usher in 1,200 people within 45 minutes. It's just not possible. I mean, it's just like an airline. People should just, if you've come in early, go check in and go to the lounge and wherever. Busy yourself with something. I mean, we've got beautiful train stations and not a single shop is open. Why were we developing all that infrastructure in the first place if we were not going to use them?
Yes.
So those are key things that must be addressed. Sometimes I'm very blunt with the government.
Yes.
This is because this is taxpayers' money. It didn't come cheap. Limiting us to 2 trains in a day just doesn't make sense at all. We know the line can accommodate at any one time over 25 trains.
Yes.
So why are you limiting us to only 2 trains? Give us 3, give us 4, because the demand is there.
Demand is high.
The demand is there.
Yes.
And let us use the line. But I just don't understand why it's being scaled. I mean, they're simply refusing to grow.
Okay.
All right, and then of course I call it the madness of trying to book a ticket. Just doesn't make sense. To try and book, you will find yourself for a whole week you can't get it, and then you're eventually directed to go through some brokers who do a markup, on the ticket. Those are some of the things that again goes back to discipline. It goes back to doing the right things and operating like a sensible country, which unfortunately sometimes we don't.
Wow, that's a key learning there.
My professional background, initially when I left high school, I went into banking. I really wanted to be in banking.
Yes.
But I didn't like it and I found it very boring and I opted to switch and I went into the hotel industry.
Okay.
And no regrets.
Yes.
Hotel industry is a very demanding industry because you have no social hours. You're basically working throughout. When people are on holiday is when you're working. You're even working more. So your time with family is really minimized. So anybody planning to get into the tourism industry, especially hotel industry, you should be ready to stay away from your family. If you think a doctor stays away, then you're mistaken. I think a hotelier stays away from the family for many hours.
Okay.
Government keeps talking about 24-hour economy. That's not news to us because we are already a 24-hour economy for time immemorial. Been in the industry for over 20 years and we have 3 steps. We never close our reception. You can check in anytime, you can check out anytime.
Yes.
So this fixation, we are telling people, hey, 24-hour economy, I think you're already preaching to the converted. It's you guys who need to catch up.
Yeah,
the rest of us have already been doing 24-hour business, for ages. One thing that we can share with the rest other industries is customer satisfaction. For us, customer is king, and anybody coming to this country, be it an investor, whoever, it's very important we treat them well, because the same client and the same investor, the rest of the world is chasing them. So if you don't treat them well, they'll go and invest elsewhere. We are not alone.
Okay.
There's nothing so special to come to Kenya to invest here. If it is beach destination, you have got 39 other destinations to choose from. You mistreat them at the airport because you don't want to deal with that rogue policeman. You don't want to deal with that rogue official at some desk somewhere.
Yes.
Then they will opt to go elsewhere. They'll say, I will never go back there. Because when it comes to a beach destination, we have over 39 destinations, including Dubai, Zanzibar, Mozambique. All those are new places that have come up, never used to exist. When it comes to safari, also, we are not alone. We are competing with 6 other countries. We are competing with South Africa. Very disciplined Botswana. We are competing with Namibia. Very disciplined as well. What we are seeing in Mara will just kill our tourism because we are going into mass. There's no discipline. You have so many vehicles chasing a few, animals. You go and block the access, rather you're blocking an entire river during the migration. So these are key things, and I will keep on insisting on discipline and doing the right thing and holding to account the people who are breaking the law. Personally, I'm obsessed with law and order. I want, if to drive, keep left. Only overtake when the road is clear. Do not, all the wrong things that people do. So if we're able to do that as a country, then we will start getting respected. You know, we don't want somebody to come here and say, you know what, this is Africa. I hate that term, because when you say this is Africa, it means anything goes, and it means it's where there's no law and order. So be prepared for any shocking thing, which in my opinion I think is wrong.
Okay, wow. And just to ask you lastly, you as an individual, how do you spend your free time? Because you mentioned about you're already at the 24/7 sort of profession. Yes. When you have free time,
you have to create free time for the family. That's very important.
Yes.
And it's very hectic, I must say. But you still must have time for your family and try to balance that. That's very, very crucial. And then obviously the world is changing very fast. I encourage people to read. Unfortunately, Kenyans are not good readers. Kenyans don't read. That is why when there are skirmishes in town and then looting starts happening, and anywhere looting happens, bookshops are always never touched.
Right.
People will loot everything else, but bookshops will never be touched. Yeah, and you, irrespective of class, ask any Kenyan today, when was the last time you read a book? Many of them hardly remember. Kenyans read to pass exams. And if you're told, if you don't read, then you're not any different from the person who does not know how to read. And when you stop reading, then learning also stops. And these days, life has been made so easy. People blame internet, wasting time, and many other things. But there are also beautiful online things that you can access and read, and then you share. When you share things you've read, it sticks in you more.
Yes.
Unlike if you read something and you keep it to yourself. I think that's the biggest challenge, and that is what I will actually urge many Kenyans, especially the young people, to do. And let's also face it, the social media, Facebook of this world, Twitter, name it. You can get too much of anything is also poisonous. People become addicted in a negative way. So that really needs to be addressed. And obviously people also need to keep fit. That's another thing also we don't do well. And when you just go across the road here, Halapak, which is opposite this hotel, if it's another part of the world, you will find 100, 200 people jogging. You go into Halapak, you will find an old lady walking her dog, that's it. But you go to a doctor's plaza, you'll find many people sitting waiting to see the doctor. Yet that consultation fee is what you'll pay there annually to jog and keep the doctor away. So those are the two things that I'll urge Kenyans to adopt: reading culture and keeping fit.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. Such a wonderful discussion.
My pleasure.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks a lot.